Okay, good morning, everyone. Let's get going. I allowed...
Yeah, isn't it sweet?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Morning.
I know you need a gavel.
How do you do this?
Get started.
Okay, let's get going, everybody.
That's the way to go. All right.
Good morning. I allowed everybody 3 minutes for the traffic, so let's get going. As usual, I'm going to start today's meeting with a few comments that highlight some of the work that the Select Board's been doing in the past month. We had three tours of sites within Concord. The first tour we went to the DPW, the second we went to the Public Safety Complex, and then the third we went to 2229 Main Street. At the DPW, we noticed that, this is my impressions, that it's a large piece of land and people are crammed into a very old building. The equipment is out in the elements 365 days a year, and it's not the highest and best use of that land, in my opinion. When we went to public safety, we realized that people are crammed into that building. It's so tight that I don't think we could buy another fire truck that would fit inside that particular garage. So these are some capital improvements that we've been putting off for years that we now need to turn our attention to. We've been spending our capital funds on the schools. I think the schools are in good shape now, so now it's time to start looking at some municipal needs that are urgent. We also went to 2229 Main Street, which you know is the Superfund site. The amount of work they're doing there is just amazing. The remediation efforts that are happening there. The federal government is spending about $250 to $300 million of our tax dollars for the remediation there, and it will be brought up to a residential level. I think the estimate right now is 2029. But if you saw the work they were doing, you would wonder if 2029 was even a reasonable estimate for when we'll be able to do something there. The committee, the task force is coming into the Select Board in the October-November timeframe to talk about next steps moving forward as far as there are some liens, we want to get clear on the risks, so these are things that the Select Board will be discussing relative to 2229 Main Street in the fall. I also want to mention that many of you know we had the first DCAM hearing for the MCI property. It was very well attended. We had 80 people here on site. We had 160 people on Zoom. So that was the first of many forums that will be hosted both by DCAM and the MCI Advisory Board to learn more about what the community would like to see at that property. I want to talk a minute about the liaison role. As you know, the Select Board appoints a liaison to every town committee and board. And I would like to hear from you, committee chairs, how best you think the Select Board should be fulfilling that role. Some Select Board members attend meetings and are very participatory. Some aren't. It depends, I think, on the board. It depends upon the personality of the Select Board member. But I'd really like to hear from you, how best can the Select Board help your committee run? What level of participation, what type of participation? And also, I'd also like to hear from you as a citizen of Concord, how would you like your elected officials to represent you on boards and committees? So I'm asking for input so that we can kind of guide ourselves, because we'd like to hear from you. How best the Select Board can be fulfilling the liaison role. If you want to mention today, if you have thoughts today that you'd like to share, that'd be great. An email would be great, and I'll be circling back at our next chair's breakfast and asking the same question. So really want to know how we can do a better job with that liaison role. A few things that are coming up. As you know, there's an ethics training here on September 25th. I think there's Andrea put a flyer on our table here. This is a great opportunity to get ethics from a common sense point of view. I know a lot of us have done online training, and I didn't find that very intuitive, so I'm hoping this is better. We've also got a forum on the residential tax exemption on September 30th, and then we also have something called the Stone Soup Dinner, which is going to be held at Farrell Farm this Sunday, and it's a great way for us all to support the agricultural community. There'll be food there served by local restaurateurs that comes from our local farm. So that's this Sunday at 4 o'clock. And also, Andrea, there's another thing on the table here. Is this a questionnaire? Great, good, thank you. Questionnaire, in case you didn't fill it out when you were here. If you weren't able to fill it out at the forum. Let me see if I've got anything else. No, that's about it. Good. Okay, I'm going to start this way. Eric, you want to go?
Sure. Good morning. I'm Eric Dahlberg from the Finance Committee. After a brief hiatus in August, we resume meetings next week, and we're kind of ramping up the cadence of meetings heading into the fall, looking ahead to the fiscal year 26 budget process and town meeting, which is in June, which will be here before you know it. Last month, we sent our fiscal year 26 budget requests to the budget units. That's the town, the schools, and the Minuteman School District. We're anticipating responses next month. Those will together serve as a key input for our guideline setting process. We participated in the site visits that Mary mentioned to the Public Works facility and then the police and fire safety building, as well as 2229 Main Street. We haven't debriefed as a committee on those yet, but speaking for myself, I share Mary's recap of those. I was struck by how, especially the public safety facility, how small and really insufficient the space is. I had never been in there. Our next meeting is next Thursday, the 26th. One of the items on the agenda, we'll hear from the fire chief, Chief Judge, on the recent grant award to deploy in-house advanced life support service, ALS, by the fire department. So that'll be an interesting discussion. Those are my updates.
Thank you, Eric.
Question. Is I'm hearing we may need a new public safety building, we may need a new public works. We just did a high school not that long ago. We just did a middle school. Did we schedule out our need for capital so that we don't come up with these surprises the way we are? Because it looks like if we create this, that's another capital project on top of the middle school, which already strained the tax base. So I just don't know how that's done.
Do you want to answer that, Eric? Or?
Yeah, I mean, there's no. I'm not aware of any immediate plan for capital projects along those lines. There's been talk of those for a while. That's specifically why we requested these site visits, to understand the condition of the buildings, because it's been identified as a capital need for a while. So we want to avoid the surprise.
Have a schedule so
We do.
overlook what's going on and then create a schedule for all this.
I can answer this briefly because this isn't really a Q&A opportunity, so I'm going to add to what Eric just said. We are working closely with the schools to put together a long-term capital plan. So yes, we are looking at how do we level and smooth out some of the debt service that we're asking taxpayers to pay. We are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What a tee up.
There you go, schools.
So I'm Julie Viola. For those of you I haven't met, I am the chair of the regional high school. I'm a Carlisle resident, so I typically don't comment on Concord outside of the high school. But I am going to represent Carrie Rankin, who is the CPS chair. She couldn't make it today. So kind of on dovetailing from what you mentioned, we actually are working on a capital planning process in collaboration with the school committee and the select board and the finance committee. It's been great thus far. And so we do look about 5 to 10 years ahead of any projects that we might need to do. To Mary's point, we have gotten a tremendous amount of support. Mark did tour the middle school, I hear. It went really well. So we're still on track to open in February, which is really, really exciting. Everyone's gearing up for that. As far as what we've been doing since the last time we connected, obviously just supporting Lori and what she's doing around that capital planning process. And then we finalized our goals last night. We're going to do last minute redlining. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the school committee, our focus is supposed to be on student achievement. And so a lot of the goals that we did are around that. We really support 3 communities, not just Concord and Carlisle. We have Concord, Carlisle, and Boston. So we've been doing a lot of great work with the METCO representatives. We are unique. We are one of the only school committees that has METCO reps that they are not elected officials and they don't have voting rights, but they do participate in our meetings, which is wonderful. The other pieces that we're going to start working on is really community relations and outreach. We're realizing that we know the schools is a huge part of the taxpayers and the budget, but you may not know what's going on. So we're going to try to communicate that a bit more this year. The other piece related to budget is, I will say, Bob Connery, who is one of the assistant superintendents, in collaboration with Dr. Hunter, does, I would say, a superior job around communicating when our budget is of concern, well before other districts that I've had the opportunity to work with. And he put some memos out last night. We do have a budget update that we'll be sharing. I just sent it to Eric. We have a lot of out-of-district placements, which means we have kids that we just can't service that need to go elsewhere. And it's something that has just continued to increase. We've talked to Alexa and Tracy, who are the previous chairs. This has been something we've been communicating for years, that it's a trend not just in Concord and Carlisle, it's across the state. And so it's something that circuit breakers certainly help with, but we have to track it. So we did talk about that last night. It's in the public agenda if you want to look at it. But just to give you an idea, for CPS, it's about a $363,000 overage. That's in addition to a couple smaller things. And then for CCHS, it's around $475K. And you'll notice that the teacher salaries have actually offset it. Dr. Hunter and the team have done a really great job with hiring the right fit to control cost. So that's the update. I have a lot more, but
Thank you.
I think it's a good one.
Thank you.
I'm Pat Nelson. I'm the co-chair of the Middle School Building Committee. And we are laser focused on getting open in February 2025. We're feeling confident that we'll be able to reach that target. There may be parts of the building that will still be under construction at that point, but the program can be delivered with what we believe will get us to that February 2025. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow in our meeting. We've been continuing our communication out to the community about the project. We've had the school committee and our committee has toured the building. It's just amazing, and people can see that from the outside, but the inside is really an amazing environment for delivering a really 21st century program for middle school age children. As far as what the select board liaison, I think that the most important thing is being able to communicate to our community if there are any intersections with other committees that are going on, or with the select board, and to be very cognizant of communication between the select board and the committee, so we can make things happen smoothly. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Andrew, did you want to say anything? Everything you have here is because of Andrea, so we're really,
Absolutely.
we're so well organized. Thank you.
You go, Melissa.
Okay, so I'm Melissa Selfield. I'm here on behalf of the Historical Commission representing the chair, Alan Bogosian. Just a few things. We continue to be working on the community preservation plan, for which we were granted money from the CPC and the Mass Historical Commission. That's supposed to be done by early 2025. And at some point, we're going to have a public forum to present our findings and also to solicit feedback from the community. We obviously we just sort of monitor what MCI Concord, because we do care about the historical resources that are on that site. We have been monitoring also the Permanent Memorial Committee, their efforts to do something with the partial 1693. We're just concerned about, again, the archaeology, which is one of the historic resources that we are obligated to care for. And then sort of the ongoing things, demo delay bylaw applications and historic grant, historic markers for on your homes. So every now and then people do submit those. We will be submitting a grant application to the CPC this year for $50,000 to do a survey of mid-century modern properties. With the changes of the demo, the demo delay bylaw that a few years ago, a house now becomes eligible for a review if it's 50 years or older. And that comports with what the national standard is anyway. So with this mid-century modern, these are homes like the Jenny Dugan area that at one time was considered a possible historic district. Also the Canantum area, which was created in 1952 by a very famous architect, Carl Koch, who was in this area. So it doesn't mean that 2,500 houses are going to be subject to the demo delay, but it would be an opportunity to review those that are of historical importance. If we are successful, we would also apply for Mass Historical, which might mean we would get a $25,000 matching grant from them and would reduce our request from the town. That's it.
Great, thank you, Melissa. Christina?
I'm Christina Kendrick. I'm the chair on the Council of Aging, and I just briefly, we're still working on our rebranding. We finally have come up with a new logo. Finally, we're very happy with it, which means that we'll be working on our brochures to get updated brochures, and then I'll be allowed to apply for signage, because one of our biggest problems we feel is that people don't know where the COE is. It's hard to see, and actually, when we have to think about our signage, because you can't really come in from the building the way it looks from the outside. So we're working on that. And also Dan is doing a fantastic job. We're really happy. And we have a new liaison, Wendy Ravelli, so she's doing great. And I'll bring to the board at our next meeting and ask what they feel like. But that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Bill Maracek, co-chair of the Personnel Board with Liz Cobbs. We met last week. We meet the second Wednesday of every month. We were introduced to the new assistant HR director in the town. And we're working with our liaison, Mark Howell, to schedule a presentation in front of the select board for our new charge as well as our goals for FY25 and beyond.
Okay, thank you. Keith?
Keith Bergman, Chair of the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. Just start with update on where we are with affordable housing. Our subsidized housing inventory is currently at 12.81%. That came from the approval of the Novo 40B earlier this year. We are headed to 16.12% by year's end or shortly thereafter. When the ZBA takes its action on the thorough 40B. But even when we reach, as I told the public hearing on MCI Concord last Thursday, even when we reach 16.12%, only 7.2% of our year-round housing stock will actually be deed restricted at some affordable level, somewhere between 50% and 150%. So the trust is following the select board's goal for this fiscal year of looking to diversify our housing stock. We're focusing in a couple of areas, workforce housing, which we're using 150% of area median income as the standard, and also community housing, 100%, which is the maximum that's allowed under the Community Preservation Act. So the trust has applied for $740,000 in funding from community preservation. Of that, only $500,000 is in current year funds. $240,000 is unused funds from 2021, which we'd like to be kept used for housing. I don't know if there's anyone I see Paul is here from the Community Preservation Committee. I saw where they had a total of $15.5 million in applications received, which is which is actually below the total amount that they're likely to have. Last year was over 18 million. So there's, so
Yeah.
that was interesting to see. The trust is also hopeful of getting town ARPA funds. We appreciate the support of the select board for the list of funding proposals that the town manager brought last week, and we're happy that the trust is included for $500,000 to focus on some surplus state property at 91B Main Street for workforce housing. So appreciate that. At the MCI hearing, on behalf of the trust, I spoke of our support for having the 12-acre Junction Village property, which abuts MCI, be included in the overall plan for that site. And so we're appreciative of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Keith. Brad?
I'm Brad Hubbard Nelson. I'm co-chair of the Climate Action Committee, and we work to help the town be successful with the Climate Action Plan from 2020. And one of our goals this year, in the coming year, is to update the plan in 2025. Because that's part of looking forward. What do we need to do to lower emissions, et cetera. And so we've been reviewing chapters of the plan at our monthly meetings. Our next meeting is this coming Monday. We'll be talking about transportation. We are working on residential outreach. Residences are the biggest sector in terms of climate emissions, and to any extent that we complement what CMLP does, they have very strong programs, and we love working with them. They had an EV event this past weekend, and we also had a table at the Ag Day, and it's great to talk to lots of residents about what they can do in their homes and stuff. Our new effort we're getting started with is a planning effort on network geothermal, which is a neighborhood-based way to electrify heating in a bunch of houses. And there is a first-in-the-nation program thing going on in Framingham, which is a nice model. We have a little more complicated situation with two utilities here, National Grid and CMLP, that would have to work together. So exploring that sort of business model and is what we want to be doing and advising the town on in the coming year.
Thank you, Brad. Dan?
Hi, Dan Schmidt, co-chair of the Ag Committee. We had a really nice Ag Day this year. Yep. Very well attended. There were some really nice nonprofits that were focused on. The challenge was to have everybody involved have some kind of connection with agriculture. And
Oh,
I think
sorry.
people did a good job.
Should have noticed that, sorry.
Anyway, I don't know if this works.
You want to repeat?
No, so anyway, Ag Day was good. I don't know if this is on. Stone Soup is coming up on this coming Sunday. There's still more tickets available, and you can get them through stonesoupconcordma.com. You can also, I think it is on, just look up Stone Soup Concord, Mass, and their website will show up, and there are tickets available, and all of the farms are donating food. A bunch of the different restaurants farms are donating vegetables, and restaurants are donating food for this event. So encourage anybody who hasn't done it to do it. It's a fun thing, and that's pretty much it.
Who brings the stone?
We're figuring that out.
Okay.
I don't know. I think Steve has a plan.
Steve has a stone, right? Okay, I'm going to go up to Zoom now. Joe, I see you up there. Do you want to go next? You're muted, Joe.
Thanks.
There you go. Good.
I'm Joe Palumbo. I'm here for Gary Clayton for Concord 250. And I just want to give you an update. If anyone's counting, 7 months from today is basically the kickoff of April 18th, April 19th. So if anyone's stressed, don't be. Everything's under control, and we're excited for the planning that's going on for Concord 250. And what we wanted to highlight today is yesterday, you may have seen in some of the media, at the State House, Gary and I were at the State House yesterday with a lot of folks from throughout the state. Governor Healy and the Healy administration announced the release of $1.5 million to support communities to celebrate 250. Their specific focus was telling new stories about the American Revolution, specifically around Black, Indigenous, LGBTQ plus IA, and 183 communities submitted grants. Only 35 were funded, and Concord were lucky enough to get funding for $25,000 for a program called Fight for Freedom, telling the story of Patriots of Color. Our grant submission includes collaboration between the town, Visitor Center, the Robbins House, and National Park Service, which will include 3 components, a standalone video that can be used for folks who can't come on a tour, weekly tours that are going to be free or no cost to the public over the entire celebration year, 25-26, specifically on Patriots of Color, and then some events, kind of like a TED Talk here in town with a lot of virtual capabilities. So it's just a nice opportunity to finally have some revenue come in because of the 250. So we just wanted to highlight that and happy to answer any questions. And also the town offices have been amazing and supportive to us, teaching us how to get through town process. So we appreciate all our town staff and all that help they've been giving us.
Thank you, Joe. Good news. Who's next on Zoom? Paul.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everybody. Paul Bohm, chair of the 2229 Main Street Advisory Task Force. I'm also on CPC, as Keith mentioned. I'm not here to report on CPC, but I would like to just mention that we don't have $15 million, which I think we have like 1.5 million in applications. I wish we had 15 million. CPC received 7 applications this year versus 19 last year, so it's an interesting change. That's all I have to say about that. As far as 2229 Main Street, as Mary mentioned, we did have a very successful site visit, beautiful day, lots of people. Bruce Thompson, the program manager from DeMaxis, did a great job of orientation and walking around the site. To Mary's point, there's been tremendous progress on the site. Each time I go there, there's just more things happening. Lest you think it's all about moving dirt, it's a very sophisticated remediation activity and various things going on the site. There's a lot of detail, and I think between the funding of 250, 300 million and the sophistication and the remediation, I think it's very interesting and kind of an awesome, if Superfund sites can be awesome in the cleanup, this is an awesome site. The task force has been working for about 18 months. I just want to say in that 18 months, I've noticed kind of a swing in maybe attitude and attention. I think when we started, we had a Superfund site that needed cleanup. The interest was kind of mixed. In the last 18 months, I think there's been a lot of interest. Mary mentioned some of it. There's need for facilities, recreation. So I think we're very encouraged that rather than being a push, there's going to be a pull on sort of uses on the site. To that end, we are working on a report. We have reached a consensus recommendation. It's not official, and we haven't voted on it yet. But very shortly, it is for the select board to kind of move ahead on the path towards acquisition. We haven't voted on it yet, but we came up with a draft motion last night. And I'll be prepared to brief the select board probably by late October. I think the report itself, because of production, it may lag a little bit behind that. But the good news is I think the task force is very encouraged by everything we've heard on the legal issues, the risk issues, the reuse issues, that there's a pathway. That's not to say there aren't issues and negotiations and potential pitfalls along the way, but we see a very nice pathway. One thing on timing, Yes, I think the site won't be ready for redevelopment until 2029, but on or about, in the 2026 area, EPA has said, look, we're going to be preparing the site, we're going to be grading the site, we're going to be preparing the site, as they are for restoration. And in doing that, they would like the town's input. If we know generally what we're going to be using there in an early stage, they could make this area flat, they could do something in another area. So they're at their cost. So there's an opportunity before 2029, if we can engage with them, and we kind of know generally what we might be doing there, and that's a big if, that there's an opportunity for them to incur some of the costs in site development. I'll kind of leave it at that. As far as the select board liaison, Mary, I'll just say, Terry's been great. The task force is a little bit different, that we have decisions to make and we need input quite frequently. That's not the case with other committees and task force. So I think the role is going to be different from sort of, I'll call, active engagement and advice to kind of passive observation. And I think each committee can talk about themselves, but I think from the task force's point of view, we have a deliverable, we have a deadline. I think we benefit from that close contact. So that's my report.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Who else is on? Randy King? Crane. Randy? We'll come back to Randy. Susan, do you want to go?
Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry, Susan.
I couldn't get the unmute button off. Apologies.
That's okay.
Yeah, so I'm Randy Kring with the Concord Board of Health.
Yep.
And our big update is Eastern Equine Encephalitis Advisory. So we had an emergency meeting on Saturday after after DPH elevated Concord's risk of triple E to high. And that was due to mosquitoes, which are the vector for triple E, testing positive on routine testing last week. So just for the group, triple E is a viral illness that's transmitted by infected mosquitoes and can be very serious, especially in very young or very old people, and carries a high risk of mortality or neurologic impairment. So prevention is key. There's no specific treatment for triple E, and so it's very important that people take precautions to avoid mosquito bites. And to that effect, we made a strong recommendation that community members restrict outdoor activities from dusk to dawn, which is the highest risk time for mosquito bites. But throughout the day as well, important to avoid outdoor areas with obvious mosquito activity, wear long sleeve shirts and long pants and socks, and make sure that your home is protected from mosquitoes, repairing window screens, and removing standing water when possible. So that was the big update. Mosquitoes are being tested again this week, and to continue to monitor kind of what's going on with the mosquito population. As you would expect, the mosquito population is dropping, I believe, by 5% per day at this time of year, just due to it being dry and starting to cool off. But there'll be a risk of transmission of this virus until there's a hard frost. So please do spread the word to be very cautious in high mosquito areas, and especially in the evening. And we had a good kind of connection with the town to kind of share that information. And then aside from that, the other thing that I would share is just we are approaching COVID and flu season. We haven't seen flu cases yet really in the community, but COVID certainly is still around. And so I would encourage everyone to share the word to please get your COVID and flu shots this fall. And that's what I have.
Thank you, Randy. Very good. Susan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Malota-Zanuck. I am chair of the West Concord Advisory Committee, and we are making our way through the West Concord master plan, which was written in 2010 in effort to identify items that are completed, some in process, and then others not done, and be able to give that information to the MCI task force so we can talk together about how completing items on that master plan might dovetail with the work that they are doing to develop the MCI property eventually. And we are also going to be meeting with the planning board sometime this fall to just sync up on different priorities and how our committee can be helpful to the planning board. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Susan. Okay, Teo, do you want to?
I'm Theo Kinnemans. I am the chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We are continuing to process the applications on a monthly basis. And so there's really no news there. We are a relatively reactive board in that regards. Update on Thoreau, the 40B. We have a public meeting scheduled on September 26th. So coming up, because the plan was after the approval of the variance and the variance not being appealed, the applicant was supposed to be submitting new plans, but they're running behind. And so they haven't submitted yet. So we are going to continue the 26th of September meeting to most likely, and it's not set in stone yet, November 25th.
Wow.
So that would be the next public meeting, hopefully. So to Keith's point, we won't be getting a decision by the end of the year. We hope early next year, and my goodness, I hope it's going to be before May, because then my term ends, and we need to have something done by then. So working on that, so and pushing on that. So that's all I have. And well, as far as the liaison, as I said, we have a very reactive board. We just process applications. So for the liaison, their task, as it's been through the last, at least as long as I've been chair, and even before then, it's been very passive, just a listen in kind of. So there's really no, not a big lift for the select board member being a liaison to the ZBA.
Great.
So,
Okay, thank you,
you.
Teo. Mira?
Hi. Mira Tilley, Chair of the Board of Assessors. We're in our quiet period right now, so not much to report. We had a vacancy on the board over the summer that's been now filled. The newest member has been sworn in and has been onboarded.
Dennis Fiore, Historic Districts Commission. Very pleased to report we have no major projects right now, which is very nice. So we're taking some time to take a look at our guidelines. For example, the signage guideline we feel does not work very well right now. And if you've seen these pop-up signs that are around town, these sort of vertical banners that are out in front do not meet our guidelines. The other complication is that we say you can't have your logo on your sign, but if your name is your logo, that makes for a difficult situation, so we're reviewing that. We're also working with the Historic Commission on the preservation plan, and we've been approached by the neighborhood past the library to extend the historic district. For instance, the Wheeler House is not part of the historic district, nor the historic house across the street. So the new owner of the Wheeler House really would like us to take a look at that. So we'll be taking a look at that, possibly aiming towards town meeting this year. But that's just beginning.
Thank you, Dennis. Ray?
Yeah, I'm Ray Andrews. I'm representing Lee Smith. I'm just the clerk. This is the CHDC, Concord Housing Development Corporation. We have awarded a contract to Habitat for Humanity for the 3 single-family houses at Assabet River Bluffs on Old Marlborough Road. We're also working on documents to create a condominium over there, a condominium association for the 5 residences, which would be those 3 new houses, new single-family houses, and the existing 2-family house on the property. On Junction Village, no surprise here, we have extended the pause on what we're going to do with Junction Village, obviously to January 31st, 2025. And I would expect it would probably extend beyond that, just pending the process with MCI decision-making process. Based on the forum last Thursday, I think, you know, we're probably many months away from being able to move forward with Junction Village in concert with the overall plan.
Right.
And we have scheduled a meeting to discuss the buy-down program for next Monday, the 23rd at 8:30 a.m. for anybody that gets up early, this early. Just a buy-down program in terms of converting houses to affordable units. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, before, I'm going to go back. I skipped over, unfortunately, I overlooked Carmen on Zoom. So I'm going to go back to Zoom for a minute and ask Carmen. Carmen, do you have anything that you want to add?
Thank you, Mary. It's shoulder season for the moderator. Nothing to add.
Okay. Enjoy the rest. Mike.
Mike Lawson, Chair of the Economic Vitality Committee. Just 3 quick points. At our last meeting, we had Alan Cathcart visit us to talk about sewers.
Yep.
And the impact the current structure of sewers and its issues have on the business community. Very productive meeting and very complicated problem. This next week we meet and we're having Mark's Transportation Advisory Committee come talk to us so we can talk about the impact that what they're working on might have on the business community. And finally, we'll be reviewing and hopefully finalizing our survey that's going out to all businesses in the town to try to collect detailed information about how they operate, with whom they operate, and what we could do as a town that would be supportive of them.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Hi.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jill Block. I'm representing the UCargill Trust. I'm the newest member on it. I can tell you right now we're reviewing kind of our process for intake for people who are requesting help with their rent, with their car repairs. Dental bills seems to be a really popular request. Right now, the referrals mostly come, I think, via the COA, social worker, Bonnie Wilbur, the town social worker, Open Table. I'm curious about how we better get the word out to other people that there is this resource in town. Anyway, that's what we're working on. Not much else.
Great, thanks, Jill. Eric.
Good morning. I'm Eric Moore, Chair of the Town Meeting Study Committee. So we have a few things coming up. We have a survey that's going to go out town-wide with a mailing. October 1st, it'll be open for a month. I'm a little, whoa, that's coming up soon. We're going to be hosting a public forum at the Harvey Wheeler Community Center on October 22nd. The focus, we intend to be a focus group format, and we'll see what we get. I'm really interested, we're really interested in hearing both from this in the survey and at the forum about people's experiences. I'd like to hear some real complaints about town meeting, frankly. I think, for better or worse. But I think understanding what people's experiences and concerns are is always really, really fundamental. I think with the survey, I really hope to hear from folks who don't come to town meeting. I'd really like to understand better why we don't have a lot of participation, a high level of participation. We're consistent across with the rest of the state in terms of our level of participation, but why isn't it more? I don't know. I'd like to know more. And then we're working towards select board meeting, an interim report with the select board, the first meeting in December. I think it's December 2nd. And the recommendations we expect to present then will be targeted towards things that could affect town meeting in 2025. We'll be looking, beyond then in a follow-up in the spring. And finally, we'll also be presenting a forum with the League of Women Voters on December 6th, the Friday of that week.
Great.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
December 13th, actually. Yes, December 13th.
Oh, okay.
I should have let you know. The 6th is the library's got its book sale.
Got it, okay. I just heard first Friday for it.
Yeah, so it's the second
It's
Friday.
the second Friday.
So I'll just quickly mention about the MCI, Mark Howell, member of Select Board, on lots of other things, but just on the MCI Advisory Board, review the video if you didn't see it from last week. I think that's good grounding. The board has broken up into 3 subgroups, one on land use, one on public engagement, and one on legal and government affairs. And those subgroups are going to be meeting separately and developing work plans for how we push the process forward with MCI Concord. And the next time that you're likely to see a large public event will be the League of Women Voters First Friday, which I believe is going to be November 1st. So those are just a couple of quick notes about MCI, and I'll pass it on.
Thanks, Mark. Stefan.
Thank you, Stefan Bader, Chair of the Concord Housing Authority. 3 quick updates. At the Housing Roundtable at the end of August, we housing groups in Concord again found ourselves on the same page. We all endorsed, eventually with writing letters to support the Municipal Housing Trust's application to the CPC. The Housing Authority was the first board to actually meet and endorse it, but all 3 endorsed it, as Keith reported previously. We also, at a recent meeting, approved continuing engagement with the Concord Housing Development Corporation on transferring the existing 2-family unit at 402 Old Marlborough Road to the Housing Authority. That will happen, obviously, after there's some sort of condominium document that Ray was just referring to, after that documentation is settled. The other thing is nobody's really that interested in budgets and that sort of stuff, but the town approved its budget at town meeting in April. The state didn't get around to approving its budget. The governor signed it in early August, and the Housing Authority, as a creation of the state, really had to wait for the state approval before we could set our current year FY25 budget. But that came through with additional funding, and so our meeting a couple of weeks ago approved the budget, actually last week, approved the budget for the current year, and that includes additional money for staff in an effort to hopefully compensate a little more flexibly than the state previously allowed, and we hope that that will help reduce turnover and retain qualified staff. And additional money for repairs on things like heat pumps, which are notoriously expensive to fix, and air conditioning. And so we're satisfied that the state did give us more money in the budget and allowed for increases that are frankly reflective of inflation at this point. So other than that, we're going forward.
Great.
As usual.
Thank you, Stefan. Mark.
Thank you. Mark Galis, Transportation Advisory Committee Chair. So the most time-critical thing that we've been doing is trying to assist the town staff in sharpening the focus of the consultant Stantec contract for a comprehensive transportation and mobility study, kind of focus on some immediate needs for the town. So of the $100,000 allocated for that study, about $30,000 has been spent, and largely has been Stantec reviewing various documents and doing some public outreach, and all this has really confirmed further things that were identified in the Envision Concord Long Range Plan and with other kind of public input, et cetera. But right now, the Stantec has been directed to proceed immediately under the remaining budget on the asset management for the roads and sidewalk network to help with a path towards capital planning for fiscal year 2026. They've been provided with all existing survey data in the town, and they're going to be doing their own survey of field survey of sidewalk conditions. In addition, ARPA funding has been identified by town manager and supported by select board for Stantec, under separate contract to look at the MassDOT Route 2 study from a professional third party point of view. As Mike mentioned, some members of the TAC are going to be continuing to reach out to other committees to kind of update them on a transportation vision and actions document. Ellen Quackenbush is our newest member, just joined us first at the last meeting. She's going to be going to the next Climate Action Committee meeting, and as Mike said, I'm going to be going to the Economic Vitality. In addition to that vision, one of the items on it is about a longer-term goal maybe of coming up with a plan to create some form or forms of public transit within Concord, because we have public transit in Bedford, in Acton, in Lexington, et cetera, and the benefits socially and economically, I think, would be amazing. One last thing is, at the last, even though we're not specifically charged with Junction Park and the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, and the interaction between those two, I had put on the agenda at the last meeting a discussion that was sparked off by a request for a change in signage from some existing signs in Junction Park that say walk your bike. And since that interacts with safety, et cetera, I widened just an informational discussion to discussion of signage and safety in Junction Park. And the conversation went on for about an hour. And the point I wanted to note here is that there is a high-level conceptual plan of record for a separated bike lane on the left side, kind of facing north across Main Street. But new facts are emerging that might indicate that that plan is not really going to accomplish what people want, given patterns of use, et cetera. And now that the trail is actually open, I think we need to kind of tap the brakes and engage the community once again to really build community consensus as to what's the best way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Mary, can I give one more update?
You can.
Thank you.
We have four.
I wouldn't have asked if we were under time.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, I mentioned earlier about goals that the school committee is working on, and this is one that I think everyone in the room might benefit from. In Carlisle, we have a strategic plan for the town that has an emphasis on multi-generational uses, and just from a personal standpoint, just love any collaboration we can do with organizations like the COA. And I look around the room and I know this is not your only volunteer position, more than likely. There's a lot of doers in the town. And so one of the ideas that we've done in Carlisle that we're going to try to put into place sometime over the next couple of years is what we're calling community-based problem solving. So Andrew Herchek and I took the initiative to come up with a framework this year. We're not going to make the program official. But what we're trying to figure out is, I'm sure all of you feel the same way, you get an influx of so many great ideas, so many asks, and you just can't wrap your arms around everything. I know at least for the school committee that happens a lot. And so some of the things we pass on to PTOs or PTGs, but there's some really great ideas. And so what we started to think of, I'll give you an example. We're in need of a new driver's ed car. We want to make it electric to meet with the town's sustainability goals. It's not quite something that we can do. It's not in our budget. So we would love to find maybe somebody through the COA that is retired, that's maybe, as an identification of battling loneliness, that could maybe work with a student on like a civics project to apply for a grant, for example. And then there's just more collaboration between, like I said, multi-generational initiatives. But we're also just trying to see, is it worth having some kind of an incubator or a backlog of all these ideas that we could socialize at a breakfast like this and say, hey, here's the backlog. Does anyone know of anything that we could work together on? So it's still very much so in an idea form, but I just wanted to let you know that Andrew and I are starting to think about what this community-based problem solving could look like, and what groups in town we could work with to bring it to life.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, thank you. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. I'll see you next month.
Thank you.